let me show you how to stack and carve the Topsy Turvy. So again, I have showed you this one in the one-tier Topsy Turvy, but I'm going to show you again because it's super important you get it. So you start with a cake board. So each layer of a stacked cake, you have a cake board under it. I've got a 7-inch round here, which was an 8-inch round, which I didn't have a 7-inch round, and I just cut an inch off it. So that's why it looks a little bit ragged, but it doesn't matter. It's just to hold the weight of the cake. So you need that first. You'll need 2 cakes. So I did say you'll need a 7-inch round cake board, 7-inch round cake. That's why you want it 7 inches. Then you're having an 8-inch round cake. So I do have 2 8 inches here just to confuse you, but that's just because that's what I had baked off. And I can still carve it out to 7 inches. You're just cutting off more cake. So why I suggest baking it off at 7 inches is it saves you cutting out more of the cake, so more wastage really. But again, you can carve it. It's just a little bit extra time in there. So I'm cutting the cake in half because now I'm going to stack it. I'm going to stack it and layer it to get the height and flavour in there. 2 reasons we do that. So I'll cut this one at the same time while I've got the knife out. So you do cut each cake in half, and that's to add layers of awesomeness. Super important, especially with such a big cake, so high. You don't want just a whole pile of cake. You need that bits of awesomeness in there. And what I do, I'm going to need that for carving the cake. What I do is I add sugar syrup to all my cakes. So I've talked about this before. So sugar syrup's 1 part sugar, 1 part water, and you boil it for 8 to 10 minutes, and it thickens it slightly, so it's not water anymore. And this one, I've happened to put a peppermint in there because I am layering with a peppermint buttercream. So I thought to add more flavour to it, I can layer it with a peppermint sugar syrup. So with peppermint, you can buy essences from the supermarket, and essences are actually an artificial flavouring. So if you're wanting to add real peppermint, what you buy is an essential oil from your health food shop, so one that's edible, and that's real peppermint. It's not an artificial flavouring for your kids. So you just add a few drops of that to your sugar syrup, which is also how I flavour my buttercream. So it's a real flavouring, it's not an artificial flavouring. And the sugar syrup, you put enough on for it to soak in within 20 seconds. Beautiful. And it's to give the cake even more flavour, and also it's more tender to the bite. Tastes beautiful. All right, just wipe my hands off. So I do always do sugar syrups with my hands. That's just because it's cleaner for me. All right, so this one was on the cake board, yes. So you add about 1 centimetre of buttercream, and it's just with a palette knife. Doesn't need to be super pretty, and it doesn't need to go all the way to the edges because you're carving it off. So let's go on number 2. I might add a little bit more in the centre, and then it'll squish on nice. And you squish him down, and that's to stop any air bubbles forming. And then we go another layer of buttercream. So you want another centimetre. And as you cut the cake too, with a green buttercream, it's really quite special. And for this type of cake, you got these wild colours. This is my style and design. To have a green colour through there as well is kind of unique and special. All right, so 2. I might use that one as the top. I'll use that one as the top. All right. So again, squish it on to stop any air bubbles forming under the fondant. And then 1 more layer of buttercream. This time I'll put the buttercream right to the edges. Awesome. All right. Now, we'll put the last layer on, and again, squish it down. Now this this is when the carving happens. So it starts to get a little bit messy. So one, you want the top to be at that angle. You want it to have this wild topsy-turvy Mad Hatter angle. To get that, you need to cut the cake. So what I do is I start from this join or layer, and you are cutting through and up at an angle to up to this side. So just do it a bit slowly, and I start here, and it's a backwards forwards motion. Careful not to cut yourself. And it's coming at an upwards angle to meet up on this side. Awesome. You don't have to be super worried about it because we are going to do some gluing. Now, that is at more of a severe angle than I normally do. So I'm just going to carve some of it away. Carve some of this away. Awesome. Now see how it sits on there now. All right, that's quite a severe angle, isn't it? Might carve a little bit more away. So again, whatever angle you're after, this is the stage that you carve it to what you're wanting. There we are, that looks a bit better. And then also the cake's going indented. He's moved off the cake board, that's right. So pop it out to the side a bit because you're going for that severe angle on the side as well. And then you glue him on with another layer of buttercream. Now each cake board as well, so you want 7-inch for this layer, you want 8-inch cake board underneath this layer, and the top tier you want a 5-inch cake board. And if you don't have an actual disposable cake board that's that particular size, you can cut out a bigger one or just use a bit of cardboard from a cardboard box. So I do always do that. Now, to carve it out to the 7-inch round, I actually use the cake board as a guide. So I'm using my knife from top to bottom and carving away down the bottom. And this is just a slow and steady wins the race. I always use my cakes cold too. I always decorate cold. It's a lot easier to carve. And then it's just slow and steady, carve away. So less is more, always carve less away because you can keep going around and carving more, but you just don't want to carve kind of too much away. And you will see that the shape will start to come together. Fantastic. So you can see it takes a couple of minutes, and I have carved in a little bit inwards on the cake board, and that's because I'm actually going to do ganaching, and the ganaching is going to fill it to the edge of the cake board. And I kept checking the angles And I'm going to fill in a little bit on this side with ganache up the top and a little bit down the bottom. It's a little bit too carved away for my liking, but that's all right. We can fill it in with ganache. And I'm going to show you how to get the indented couch looking when we do after the crumb coat. Crumb coat's first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean away and we're going to do a crumb coat. So we just carved the cake and I've got out my turntable, which is actually a Lazy Susan I got from Woolworths for $7, something like that. So I do use this a lot for fondant cakes and ganaching and crumb coating, but you can do it on the bench as well. And I've done that in other video tutorials, but I will use that today because it's quicker. I always use a bit of non-slip so it doesn't slip around all over my glass turntable. So we'll pick him up under the cake board and put him on there. Doesn't matter that a bit of the non-slip is showing, it doesn't matter at all. All right, so we're going to do a crumb coat now. We've done this lots of times before, but a crumb coat is basically a very thin layer of ganache generally to seal the crumbs in so that when you do the final coat, two things, there'll be no crumbs in the final coat, and also it attaches to the other layer of ganache, to the crumb coat, really easily. So you can see the crumbs through it, you can still see the cake through it. It's literally a very thin smear of a crumb coat. At this stage, I didn't like that angle too much. It was a bit too severe for me, so I'm going to fill it in a little bit with ganache down the bottom. So that's why I piled extra on there. And again, just smearing it around and starting to cover that cake board. All right, so now I'm just spinning the turntable quite quickly just to flatten it out, even it out, so there's no waves or ripples through there. And I get it all the way down to that cake board as well. And scrape it off. Now because the cake's cold, the ganache will start setting after a couple of minutes. So that's why I do that now. And now I'm going to do the top. And because you could have added more cake crumb in there to even it out, but I'm just going to put a bit of extra ganache in there to get a nice flat table surface. Well, not that it's flat, a nice angle. And then, so I put quite a thick amount in the centre here, and then I'm going to smear it to the top and bottom to crumb coat it all. Now I know I haven't carved out this centre yet. That's going to happen after the crumb coat. It's a lot easier once you've got that flat surface. It's easier to see where you need to carve. So we do carve out this shape here, which looks like a couch. So same as what we've done on the bottom tier. It looks like a bit like a couch, and that's where the next cake layer is going to sit. That's the secret of the Topsy Turvy, or of the Mad Hatter. It's actually flat. Each of the cake layers are actually sitting flat. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to fall over. All right, so I'm just making sure there's not too big dimples or waves in there. And then for these edges or lips, I always bring it back towards the center. Make sure your palette knife's clean. Back towards the center. Back towards the center. All right. Now you can put it in the fridge to set for 10 minutes if you want, but I'm actually going to carve it out now. So